It's Thursday, October 17th, and that means it's game day for the Chiefs. They're in Denver to take on the Broncos tonight, and we've got your pregame covered on the SportsBeat KC podcast presented by Big O Tires. You'll hear from Nick Griffith. He covers the Broncos and is the sports director for Fox 31 in Denver. And if that name sounds familiar in Kansas City, it should. Before headed to Denver 8 years ago, Nick was the lead sports anchor at Channel 9 in Kansas City, and before then, a sports director for Channel 27 in Topeka. With Nick, we'll get a Chiefs-Broncos breakdown from a Denver media perspective. Later, you'll hear from Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who met the media earlier this week. The Chiefs have lost 2 in a row, as if you didn't know, but I like what I heard from Mahomes about dealing with adversity. But first, here's Nick Griffith. I'm joined by Nick Griffith, the sports director at Fox 31 in Denver and former resident of Kansas City, employee at Channel 9, and worked in Topeka, if I have that right, Nick. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. We're the what's now defunct ABC affiliate in Topeka, or at least the last time I looked, it was no longer there. But I was in Topeka for 2 years, and then I spent about 4.5 years there in Kansas City, getting Len Dawson all primed and ready for every nightside newscast, and was anchoring along the way most of the time. I think my official term was lead sports anchor, although, of course, Lenny was the big boss man there at the time that I was there, and did a lot of the weekend stuff and traveling whenever I could. So good to talk to you, Blair, and getting set for this big Thursday night game.
Yeah, a big one it is, primarily because of the last 2 weeks. I think the results of the previous 2 weeks have turned this into a really interesting game. If this had been week 5 with the Broncos at 0-4 and the Chiefs at 4-0, we might be looking at this thing a little differently. But because we have played 2 additional games, the Broncos winning both of them, the Chiefs losing both of them, I think we've got a really interesting game shaping up. And just tell me from a Denver perspective, what has gone right for the Broncos these last 2 weeks?
Yeah, and we've been looking at this a lot differently, right? I mean, I think 2 weeks ago, had we played this in week 5, I mean, there's no question the Chiefs would have been a double-digit favorite coming in here to Empower Field at Mile High, and now I think Vegas has it at like a 3.5 Chiefs favorite to win this game. So, yeah, just a drastically different turnaround, especially defensively, and that's, of course, where everyone thinks of the Broncos, although they certainly didn't think that way in a positive fashion the first 4 weeks of the season, especially the Jacksonville game. The second half of that game, Leonard Fournette came out and just ran wild. He had darn near 200 yards rushing. But the Broncos, they figured some things out. They changed some personnel up. They went with a different nose tackle in Mike Purcell. Kareem Jackson wasn't playing in that game. He's now playing. He's a big run stopper from the safety position. And they have really looked like a different defense, certainly the last 2 weeks. So the biggest question marks right now, of course, with this team is going to be on the offensive side of the football, where, the thing with last week, they scored 16 points in a 16-0 shutout against the Titans. But there was thoughts that really the game was a complementary style of football that they were playing with Rich Scangarello, the offensive coordinator, and they're going to kind of play to what the defense dictated in that game. And they know this game, and at least some people I've talked to at team headquarters, there's a thought that, you got to put points up when you're going against Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense. So the mentality will be different. I don't think they expect to just go in and try to dominate on defense and win a low-scoring football game. I think the offense is ready, and they know that they're going to have to put some points up if they're going to contend in this football game. And
it's an offense led by Joe Flacco, acquired just this season in the continuation of trying to find the right quarterback in Denver since the Super Bowl victory, the Peyton Manning-led Super Bowl victory. What are the early returns on Joe Flacco?
Well, I mean, look, he's probably the best quarterback we've had here since Peyton Manning. He's certainly an upgrade over Case Keenum, and he doesn't do the wrong thing very often. He's a safe and sound quarterback, much in the way Peyton was. He's got a pretty good feel for what he wants to do with the football each and every time. I think if there's any sort of the biggest negative, at least in my mind, is he tends to feel pressure that's not always there, and I think that's sort of bugs you when you think of, the defender's 3 or 4 yards away at least, and there's like just this hurry up, I don't have much downfield. It's much the opposite of what you guys are used to dealing with and seeing on a day in and day out consistent basis with Patrick Mahomes, right? The ability to just extend the pocket, make plays, step up in the pocket, use your footwork to find throwing lanes. there's a sense that like he can go through some progressions and he can go through some options really quick, but all of a sudden it's like, I'm just giving up on this play. Let me take a couple steps, get outside the hash mark and just throw it out of bounds, or let me just throw it at the feet of my wide receiver. So that's the drawback. I think the biggest negative to Joe's game, but overall he and Rich Scangarello were working well together. Again, everything's new. This whole system, this new coaching staff, the schemes on both sides of the football, that was the early return, at least in those 4 losses, was we're still learning this thing. We're still figuring out where the coaches want us to be. We're still trying to trust the system and the scheme. And now really you're seeing on both sides of the football that, hey, okay, these coaches do know what we're doing. We're starting to get some returns back, and we're starting to do things the right way. So there's belief again that this team can get back. I mean, look, they're a win away on Thursday night from being 1 game out of first place in the AFC West after starting the year 0-4, which is, kind of crazy around here to think about that.
Yeah, it is. It is. And going back to Flacco for a second, he's been sacked 15 times. But that doesn't seem to matter against the Chiefs. Last week, Deshaun Watson for the Texans had been sacked 18 times this year, and the Chiefs didn't come close to a sack last week. I think from a Chiefs perspective, the big concern is rushing defense. They have allowed at least 180 yards rushing in each of the last 4 games. It's very common to have a 100-yard rusher against the Chiefs. And now they're going up against Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. Lindsay has had good games against Kansas City. Freeman had a nice game against them last year as well. It looks like that part of the game, at least to me from a distance, is solid again for the Broncos.
Yeah, and I think you have to just – I'm assuming that's going to be the game plan, and all indications that I got out there from practice this week were exactly that they're going to try to control the time of possession, keep Patrick Mahomes in that offense over on the sidelines. And I mean, look, that's sort of their recipe for success under Vic Fangio. Of course, a defensive-minded head coach through and through. And if they got to kind of resort to that sort of complementary football, and if they can, successfully move the ball down the field while taking up a large portion of time by doing so, I think that's what they would like to do. And certainly running the ball right at the teeth of that defense, I think that they feel that they can certainly have a lot of success. They've recently had some here against Tennessee as well as L.A. And you mentioned those 2 guys. Both Freeman kind of being a thunder to Phillip Lindsay's lightning. Those 2 guys are getting it done. And the offensive line, too, as a whole, the last 2 weeks have played pretty well. Mike Munchak, he was in contention to be the head coach here. They still got him as the offensive line coach. And the early returns, again, it was like, we thought this O-line would be much improved under Mike Munchak. Not so much right at the start of the season, but it seems like they're starting to find their form here over the last couple of games. It's certainly a lot cleaner, less penalties. We saw a lot of penalties early in the season when they lost those 4 straight losses to start the year. And
in that 4th loss, it wasn't the 4th loss to Jacksonville.
It was.
And Bradley, was a game I was going to say, and Bradley Chubb was injured in that game.
Yeah, he got injured, and really it's a game that the Broncos should have, could have, would have won. I mean, they controlled the game through, at least I think they were up 12 points at the half. Really had that game under control. And, it seemed like Jacksonville, you would think if they were going to get back in the game, would have to come out and start throwing the ball around the park. And instead, they went to Leonard Fournette, and he just ran over him. But like I said, they've really shored things up on the defensive side of the football with some different moves. Mike Purcell at nose tackle. A.J. Johnson, a linebacker, he's fresh and new and playing great. And then, of course, Kareem Jackson as well. It seems like they've really kind of rounded that defense into form. And guys keep saying, we're learning our system now. Vic's system is sort of complicated. It's kind of crazy, but in a way it's simple if you just do your job. So guys keep saying they're just trying to learn how to figure out how to do their jobs under his system. And now it feels like they're kind of figuring their roles out. But in the words of Vic Fangio, it's a different animal taking on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And they have done a great job of stopping the run the last couple of games. That's great and well. Our concern here in Broncos country is, okay, but now can you stop a passing attack that is Patrick Mahomes is going to, of course, spread it out and throw it all over the lot.
Right, and I heard some of Vic Fangio at his press conference this week, and I also noticed that you host his show, Broncos Zone. Tell me a little bit about Vic Fangio and what he's brought to Denver.
He is a old school football coach through and through. I mean, it's an interesting personality. If you ask a lot of guys, what's the personality of Vic Fangio? Much like you're asking me, a lot of the response you get is what personality? I mean, he is dry, really just dry wit. But he's an old football coach, and he knows his X's and O's, especially on the defensive side of the football. He's, this is just me speaking freely. He's really letting a lot of his offense go to Rich Scangarello, the offensive coordinator, and working that out with Joe Flacco and the offensive coaches. I mean, he's still going to be the mastermind on the defensive side of the football. He and Ed Donatel are just trying to get together the right scheme, and he takes great pleasure in locking up opposing offenses. Of course, he's been the defensive coordinator for the Bears the last couple of years. He's been in the league darn near 4 decades. I mean, he's tried and true. There's nothing he hasn't seen. And conversely, he throws some different things at offenses that I think a lot of offenses aren't used to seeing. Last week they rushed 2 guys in a 3rd and 13. They rushed 2 outside linebackers and dropped everybody else. And it just Mariota just sort of looked around and thought, what is going? Like, he just was like baffled by, what am I looking at? There's 9 defensive backs right now. So and it just threw him for a loop, and he still almost got sacked by Von Miller. So Vic Fangio, he can dial up some different, unique sort of packages and schemes, and we're starting to see more and more of that.
And hey, before we let you go, Nick, how about a couple of quick thoughts on some topics? I was reading recently rumors about Von Miller on the trading block. There's nothing to that, is there?
I don't see it. I haven't seen it. There was also some thought that there was some animosity is probably not the right word, but that Von and Vic were sort of harboring some ill will feelings towards each other. And publicly they've spoken nothing but very highly of each other, except that when Vic Fangio took the job, he was asked about what's it going to be like to have a player like Von Miller, and Vic answered with, I feel like I can get a lot more out of Von, and quote unquote. And, interpret that how you will. I think some people thought that Von might take offense to that. In his own words, he hasn't. And even last week he was asked about that. I don't see it. He's the cornerstone of this defense. To me, it would be like letting Khalil Mack walk from much like Oakland did, and we see what happened there. So I just don't see the Broncos and John Elway. I mean, the guy just basically won as a Super Bowl 3.5 years ago. I would be shocked and stunned, and then some if the Broncos were seriously considering letting Von Miller out the door. I'm sure that they'll at least listen to offers if there's a bunch of offers coming down the pike, but they would have to be some crazy, great, fantastic, ridiculously awesome offers for that to even consider that.
And how about a thought on Drew Lock? Injured in the Missouri quarterback, the second-round pick, injured in the 3rd preseason game, and I guess there's some talk now about maybe is maybe a little bit ahead of schedule in the rehab and could see him before the end of the season?
Cast is off. I saw him the other day. He's moving good. I think that, perhaps this Thursday night game, ironically as it is, the Chiefs, Kansas City, might have a lot to say about how quickly or not so quickly Drew Lock makes his first NFL appearance. Because if Joe Flacco, and the Broncos get this win on Thursday, they're right in the thick of things. And this is the season's probably going to take on a totally different feel. If they lose and you move to 2-5 on the season, they then go on the road to Indianapolis. Then it's the bye week. All of a sudden you could potentially be looking at the bye week at 2-6, thinking, okay, why not? Let's see what we got in the quarterback. So that's sort of where we're at right now. I think Drew Lock's probably back to he's probably ready to go. I mean, by all accounts, at least in the next 2 or 3 weeks, when the Broncos would perhaps call on him if this thing goes south, then I think that they would certainly look to call on Drew Lock in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So he could potentially make his first start by week 8 or 9 in the season. But that's going to take the Broncos to lose the next couple games here.
Well, that's great. Nick Griffith, sports director at Fox 31 in Denver. Cannot thank you enough for joining us on SportsBeat KC.
Blair, always a pleasure. Hello to everyone back in Kansas City. Good folks there. I miss it greatly, and we're doing great out here in Denver, though. But thank you for having me on, and we will we'll catch up with you soon.
Sounds good, Nick. Thank you so much. After this break, Patrick Mahomes takes questions from reporters about last week's loss to the Houston Texans and tonight's Broncos game. This was recorded at Mahomes' weekly press conference, which occurred on Monday this week.
When it comes to saving you money on tires, nobody does it better than Big O Tires. Like saving you up to $120 on select sets of Goodyear, Yokohama, Pirelli, and Continental tires now through November 3rd. That's $70 off instantly, plus up to $50 back by mail-in rebate when you purchase using your Big O Tires card. Hurry into Big O Tires and see how much you can save. Big O Tires, the team you trust. For the location nearest you, go to bigotires.com.
Hey, it's Blair. Hey, we have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns we have to offer. And it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. For your convenience, your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. A lot of subscription services won't tell you that. They'll just sneak it on there. We just told you. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
Now, do you feel like in your career you've had a stretch kind of like what you guys are going through now where it's been a little bit rough? I mean, I know in Tech you lost some games, but it feels like you were scoring a bunch of points through all that. Do you feel like you've gone through maybe a stretch like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were certain times at Texas Tech when we didn't do the things that we wanted to as an offense to find ways to win. Like you said, I've definitely been through adverse times when I was in college of not winning the games that I felt like we could have won. And then I think my first year here, whenever the team went through a little stretch where they weren't winning games, was something that I could always follow. I can look back upon and realize that it's a long season. You can figure it out. And that team, my rookie season, started hot, had a few games they didn't like it, and then they kind of picked it back up as the season went on. And so, I mean, there's just difficult times in the NFL. I mean, teams are good, and we played some great opponents so far this season. And so we'll have to find a way to get this thing rolling again on a short week against a great opponent.
So in this instance, how do you get to the other side?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to keep trying to execute and trusting in what we're doing. I mean, I feel like there's plays here and there every single game that change the outcome, and that's how close it is in the NFL. I mean, every team can win every single week, so it's about the little plays here and there that can change the whole aspect of a football game.
Your first 16 passes, I think you completed 10 from 180-some yards, and it was 19 for 80-some after that. Was there an adjustment that they made? How much of that was ankle protection?
I don't know if any was ankle protection at all, but, I mean, they played the similar defense the whole game. We didn't execute at a high enough level. I didn't make the throws at a high enough level as the game went on. But I mean, I felt like we were doing the same things. We were running plays that we had game planned for, and we just didn't get some of those series rolling the way that we wanted to get going to have success later in the game.
Patrick, from your perspective, I know Travis is one of the best, if not the best tight end in the NFL, but from your perspective, how much are you watching or seeing opposing defenses just try to be as physical as possible, even if a penalty occurs, then sort of letting you and him get into a rhythm or a flow as the game goes on?
Yeah, I mean, you can see the last few weeks, defenses are going to put their hands on them and try to hold them and rough them up at the line of scrimmage in order to disrupt our timing. All we can do as an offense is just keep going through our offense and trying to keep executing at a high level. I mean, me and him both have to be better about trying to find ways to give him time to get open and make better throws when he does get open, and then him to keep working those routes and trusting in his technique and his abilities. And that's stuff that we'll work as the season goes on. I mean, obviously this will be a time where we can look back upon that. Hopefully that we learned a lot of things about ourselves as a team and as an offense in order to hopefully grow as an offense with a lot of these young guys that we have on this team.
With Tyreek coming back, could you see a difference either in the game or just compared to previous weeks as far as how the defense was maybe presenting some coverages and looks towards you now that he's back on the field?
Yeah, I mean, when Tyreek's out there, defense have to pay extra attention to him, and I think you saw that at the beginning of the game is they kind of start off with that kind of the more press man that we had been seeing, and he kind of got him a couple times, and then you started to see that they were kind of backing off of him earlier and kind of playing more of a press bell, and the safety was cheating over there to kind of help out with the guys over there. So he's a guy that it takes a little added attention, and so we need to help utilize that as whenever he does get those matchups, take them. But when they're adding that attention, we have to use other guys to have success as an offense.
Patrick, how do you handle and accept the responsibility of just knowing that after back-to-back losses and you go out to practice this week that there's going to be a lot of guys, new guys, younger guys on this team that are just going to look to you into how you're handling it and just how you approach Whether it's during practice or in the meetings or whatever it is, how do you accept that responsibility?
Yeah, I think you have to go about it as you just need to get better each and every week. And I think you have to have that same mentality after a win as you have after a loss, is that you're trying to go out there to get better. And so we obviously, after back-to-back losses, we're not happy with how we've performed the last few weeks, but we know we have a short week against another opponent, and we still have everything. We can still control our own destiny as far as our division and trying to win the AFC West and do those different things. And so this is an important game this week. I mean, we're playing Denver at Denver. They've won, I think, 2 in a row, so that they're kind of playing really good football right now. And so for us, we have to make sure that we have our game plan down and we can really execute at a high level in a hostile environment.
Shady ran 8 times yesterday, and the coaching staff kind of pointed to the RPOs. Just how do you go about self-scouting? Okay, did I make the right call here to pass? Did I make the right call to run? So.
Yeah, I think you look at the plus, the positive parts of each play, and I feel like on a lot of those RPOs we completed the passes. I think there was one time, if I look back right now, I'm about to watch the film after this, but I think there was one time where I made a throw to Pringle that we almost hit on, that missed, that the run could have been out from the little pictures I saw on the tablet and stuff like that. But for the most part, a lot of those things where I was kind of throwing them to Tyreek on the side where he was getting 9 yards a catch and stuff like that, was those RPO options, and you get +9 on those throws, then those are usually success plays for us.
Patrick, the offensive line takes a lot of the criticism, when the offense isn't going well. What's your message to them? Let them know that you still have confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I always have confidence in those guys. Those guys are working their tail off to protect for me, and we put a lot on them as far as letting them have to have those one-on-one against really good pass rushers with the Texans in these last couple weeks, and they've been holding their own and doing their best job every single play. And so for us, I'll keep trusting those guys to keep doing their job. I have to get the ball out of my hands whenever the play isn't there. And I think you saw that with the play before half of, like, I held on to it just a little bit too long instead of just burning it and living the play for the next play and then later to the next half. And that's just little mistakes that you can't make when you're playing a good opponent like that.
Confidence-wise, as a group, and maybe as you individually, does it feel different? Like last year, you're losing shootouts when you lost a couple. Now you guys have lost a couple where you scored 24 or 13 points. How's your confidence and the confidence in the team as a group offensively that you'll be able to kind of get back rolling to what at least fans expect, to score 30 or 40 points?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we still did a good job yesterday of moving the ball up and down the field for the most part. There was a couple drives there at the end that we just didn't get it rolling from the beginning and kind of put our defense in a bad situation, putting them right back on the field. But I think the biggest thing is it's the difference that you have from just missing those little plays as far as third down conversions and little things like that we were making last year that we haven't made these last few weeks, and we were making at the early part of the season, is what changes the whole aspect of the game. And so knowing that and guys seeing that on film, they understand that we're this close to being that same explosive offense that we were at the early part of the season. So it's about just executing as we keep getting guys back and keep getting more and more opportunities. We have to make sure we execute at a high enough level to have success.
Last year, if my memory is correct, the Thursday night game was in December when bodies gone through a lot of games, a lot of sort of bruising. What about last year could prepare you to try to get your body as best possible for Thursday against the Broncos?
Yeah, I think last year we did a good job of executing at the beginning of the game, and we kind of faded at the end. So I think just knowing that it's going to be a full game, you have to make sure you're going to play a full entire game against a division opponent, and knowing that they're going to give their best effort because it's such an important game. So for us, we're just going to go out there, get this game plan down today, make sure that we prepare ourselves to play a full 60 minutes or however long it takes.
I know you haven't probably studied the Broncos too much yet, but you've faced them several times in your career, new head coach and stuff like that. But they pitched a shutout yesterday. Their defense looks like they're kind of coming around. What's that challenge going to be like? Yeah, I mean, they have first of all, they have great personnel with the defensive players that they have that have came back and that have been there for a long time. And then with Coach Fangio, I mean, he's such a good, really good defensive coordinator, and then now a head coach. And so for them to have that combination, they're going to have a good defense. And so as an offense, we're going to make sure that we understand what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do it, and then find ways to have success whenever we get our opportunities.
Access the Kansas City Star's Chiefs coverage on kansascity.com and in the Star's print editions. Plus, we've dropped a few of the stories about tonight's game in the show notes. Kathy Lou and Leah Becerra did their usual producing magic. Thank you. And they'll be back on the job Friday for another Sports Beat KC podcast. when the Stars coverage team breaks down the Broncos game. Look for that episode to drop Friday morning. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.